Hey Internet, it's Matt here, talking about one of my favorite topics, the Lord of the Rings. Today we're going to be talking about the paths of the dead. Specifically, there's a paragraph in Lord of the Rings that is so evocative. I remember reading it and thinking, oh, I want to know more about that. And it's kind of an example of how Tolkien can inspire wonder with just a few well-placed words. So we'll talk about that. Just to give the background on the paths of the dead, if you've seen Return of the King, you're familiar with it. The movie is a little bit different than the book, but generally speaking, they hit the high notes correctly, which is the paths of the dead lead through the White Mountains. And they are kind of similar to how Moria was for the dwarves, as an underground city. Well, there was an underground kingdom for the mountain men, the Dunlendings. They actually back in the day, they actually worshipped Sauron, and eventually Isildur showed up and demanded fealty from them. They swore fealty to Isildur in the Great War, but when the time came and Isildur's like, "I need you," they didn't answer the call. And so Isildur cursed them. And he said, you know what, if we end up winning, if Isildur's side of the last alliance ends up winning, you guys are cursed to basically haunt your underground kingdom forever until you answer the call of one of my kin. And so that came to pass. And as we know, Aragorn basically called them out. In the book, they got him some ships. They attacked the Corsairs, and Aragorn freed them from their service to his family line. So very, similar to the movie in that way. But there are some really cool things that the book brings out. Now, so one of the things is, of course, the path through the White Mountains starts with the Dark Door, which they depict in the movie. And it ends with the Stone of Erech, which is where in the book Aragorn has these ghosts essentially swear fealty to him. The stone was placed there by Isildur, and it's a relic from Numenor. Now Numenor again is Tolkien's version of Atlantis. It was a mighty culture, sank into the sea, but not before a few notable Numenorians escaped to the mainland, one of them being Isildur, and he put that stone there, the stone he took from Numenor, as an example, a reminder that these people were under the protection and had to swear fealty to the king, this Numenorian, Isildur and his heirs. So the stone is still there all those generations later. So in any case, as Aragorn is passing through in an attempt to contact these ghosts, these spirits, there's this great passage. Okay, so I'm just going to read. I'm editing it down. It's a shortened version of this passage, but this is what Tolkien wrote. This is Aragorn walking through the paths of the dead. Aragorn finds the bones of a mighty man. He had been clad in mail, and still his harness lay there whole. For the cavern's air was dry as dust, and his hauberk was gilded. His belt was of gold and garnets, and rich with gold was the helm upon his bony head, face downward on the floor. He had fallen near the far wall of the cave, as now could be seen, and before him stood a stony door, closed fast. His finger bones were still clawing at the cracks. A notched and broken sword lay by him, as if he had hewn at the rock in his last despair. Aragorn did not touch him, but after gazing silently for a while, he rose and sighed. Through all the long years he has lain at the door that he could not unlock. Whither does it lead? Why would he pass? None shall ever know. And that's all we hear about it. What's great is you can imagine the situation. Aragorn's in the dark in the Paths of the Dead. They get some torches, and off to his left. So the main passage is going this way. This is where he wants to go. Off to his left, he sees this passage that ends in this big stone door, and lying on his face down in front of that door, with a skeletal hand outstretched, is this figure dressed in gold armor. And and Aragorn chooses to not touch him, not do anything, just keep going. Hey, we got work to do. Which, I mean, it's basically straight out of a Dungeons and Dragons module, right? It's like a dungeon crawl. It's perfect. You're in the, who is this guy? Why is that door closed? Why was he trying to get past the door? Why couldn't he get past the door? How did he die? Like, there was so many questions that little vignette brings up. And the fact that Aragorn's like, yeah, but that's not the story. My story is this way. And so it's just this great thing that Tolkien gives you, this world that transcends the story he's telling. He's like, look, I could tell you this story over here about this guy who wanted to go into this door, but I've got a better story to tell this way. Paths of the Dead. This is going to talk about the Battle of Pelennor Fields. This is going to be important. So that's really, to me, what makes Tolkien great. It seems like at any moment he could be like, nope, I could just move sideways and tell this other really cool story at any time because I have such a fully realized world. And he did. He didn't just put a guy in front of a door without any backstory. That's lesser authors might do that, not Tolkien. And so we actually do know about this guy and possibly what befell him. Okay, so we're pretty sure he gets this guy. We think gets name dropped later by Theoden in the book, and the dead guy is Baldor the Hapless. Is his name. Great name. So. And also, Tolkien wrote about this guy and maybe what was behind that door in an unfinished essay. So some of his notes, because he took so many notes. This world is so well realized. It's really, really cool. Okay, so here you are. Paths of the Dead. You're under the mountains. You're kind of in the human version of Moria, basically. Baldor was actually a prince. He was the son of Brago. If that name sounds familiar, it's because in the movie, Return of the King, Aragorn's horse is named Brago. Now, it's not in the book, Aragorn's horse is not named Brago, but whatever. In the movie, they did a little homage. They named the horse Brago. And in fact, just as an aside, supposedly Viggo Mortensen developed such a relationship with that horse they filmed so many scenes together. He ended up buying that horse. He purchased it after the movie. But in any case, so son of Brago, Baldor, he is a prince. He's the oldest son as well. So he is destined to become the king of Rohan, Lord of the Mark. This is in ages before, if you do the family tree. Down here is Theoden. Up here somewhere would be Baldor, and up a little higher up would be Brago. So, Baldor, oldest son, ready to inherit the throne. They've just built Meduseld. It's at the inauguration or the coronation of Meduseld. They've just built the hall, and the ribbon cutting. Ribbon cutting, but whatever. That ceremony, the celebration they're having. Baldor gets drunk and basically takes a drunken dare that he's gonna go through the Paths of the Dead. People basically are scared off of the thing. It's a no man's land. It's at this point, Isildur's curse has already been in effect. The place is haunted by ghosts. Everybody's like, you stay away from there. And so Baldor takes this dare to go. He's also confronted by a mysterious old man who basically warns him against going in. We don't know who that old man is, what that's all about, but basically, like a typical fairy tale, there's the old wise man that says, hey, if you go in there, you're going to die. And self-fulfilling prophecy ends up happening. So Baldor is like, bah, I've had so much drink, I'm ready to go be an idiot. And so he heads off into the paths of the dead. And we know where he ends up, because he also described it. He would have been wearing a lot of gold armor because he was in his finery. So, from Tolkien's essay, we know that the door he's trying to get through actually led to an old temple built by these mountain men who at that time were following Sauron. So that is it's like an evil temple to Sauron is just past this door. Who knows what might be in there? Sounds awesome. If you were in a module, you'd be like, oh, I think I'll just take this gold armor and oh, that's a belt. Really cool. He's not going to need these rings anymore. To Aragorn's credit, he didn't do that. I can level up. Okay, so he's going off and basically just, he had nothing, I don't think a destination in mind other than just surviving. But he's trying to get through this door. And we are told by Tolkien that he had his legs broken by enemies and he was left to die. Which, whoa, okay. That's a interesting little bit of information. So now you could just say, oh, well, the ghosts that haunt the place broke his legs, and tortured him in some way. But I would, and which is very possible. We don't know enough about the powers of the ghosts of these mountain men that haunt the paths of the dead to say definitively could they break someone's legs or not. But what we do know is when they are called upon by Aragorn to attack the Corsairs, they basically just attack through fear, right? They're ghosts, right? It's like, and they scare everyone away, off the ships. Everybody jumps overboard. They just clear a path through abject horror and fear. So in other words, they don't physically attack anyone when they're as this army. Which then leads to the idea that perhaps it was not a ghost that broke Baldor the Hapless's legs. And if that's the case, then who would it be? No one goes there. That's the whole point of Baldor going in. So I don't know. I'll throw out a theory, possible theory. Of course, Baldor was the oldest son, due to inherit the throne. The second son ended up becoming king. I believe his name was Aldor. Perhaps this dare and this attempt was an attempt to basically get Baldor in some place where he would likely die, and then maybe the brother came and finished him off, kind of Cain and Abel style, so that he could inherit the throne. And he left Baldor to basically, that was ages passed before Aragorn found him. So that means no one went in there for generations. It's a testament to just how scared the people of that area were to go into the paths of the dead. Like, heck no, not going. So anyway, there's a conspiracy theory for you. Perhaps the throne of Rohan was attained through some horrible treachery to our illustrious Baldor the Hapless. Anyway, that's just a little tidbit on the path. Well, there's more you can even talk about with the Paths of the Dead, but I always thought that particular passage, the fact that it was almost a throwaway line for Tolkien to say, oh yeah, there's this guy, there's a skeleton in gold armor who's lying in front of a closed stone door in the middle of the Paths of the Dead, and we're just going to walk past it, move on. Who knows what's back there? Probably something awesome. Who cares? I loved that, and it just really captured my imagination. So again, kudos to Tolkien. He doesn't need my kudos, but I'll still give them. Anyway, there you go, everybody. I'll be doing some more Lord of the Rings stuff as we go along, as maybe we get closer to Amazon doing their Lord of the Rings series. Thought it might be kind of a fun thing to have a stable of Lord of the Rings videos by then. So anyway, we will see you guys next time. Subscribe if you want to get updates. We're going to be talking more. We're going to finish up Luke Cage in the coming weeks, and obviously Lord of the Rings stuff, and who knows what other dorky things await. So, bye everybody.